Welcome to our first colloquy. A colloquy is an antiquated term for gathering people together so that we can come and reason well together. It's historically been done in times when the church was in great difficulty or they had very serious issues to resolve. And the idea was to come together before God. It was done in some traditions, and to put the difficult questions of the day before the church leaders. And that's what we intend to do. We've asked 4 pastors. We have Russ Wilson, we have Steve Walker, Steve Schenewerk, and David York, who are coming from 4 different traditions, and we're going to be bringing them together to discuss difficult questions. Now, for myself, this journey kind of started many years ago when I watched a whole generation of kids walking away from the church, and the primary thing that I found them telling me over a period of time of trying to understand what was going on is they said we were not able to have honest and real conversations about what we were really living with. And they were talking about gender, and they were talking about suicide, and they were talking about very difficult issues that they could not find adults who would reason with them and help them understand. And so we have a postmodern generation that we're trying to come back and teach them how to reason well together. And I've watched a lot of bad conversations happen over the years. And that's what we've asked our pastors to do, is come together and demonstrate how to have a reasonable conversation over very difficult issues with Scripture as our guide. And so this is our first colloquy. The topic that we ask them to be ready for is, what questions are you and your church leadership asking in regard to COVID-19 restrictions on gatherings? That's become a hot topic among the church, and there's a number of other questions. I've got a whole list of questions that I've had for years. Obviously, we're going to put those aside for now, and we're going to come back and visit them. And today, we're going to be touching on Black Lives Matter, on racism, on different topics as we go through 4 parts. So this is our first colloquy, and I would like to just go ahead and let the pastors introduce themselves, and we're going to get started. Blessings on your day. 4 parts. So this is the first kickoff of the colloquy. I wanted to start and ask why each of you are here. You can go in any order. What expectations do you have, and what do you hope to accomplish here?
I mean, I'll start. I mean, I think that one of the things that I've seen in the community for 20-something years is that we focus so much on how to have unity, we never talk about what it looks like when we disagree. And yet there are a lot of areas that we disagree. And some of those areas are ones that we just have never chatted about. And so I'm here because it's something I've been asking for a while. I was praying coming in. I said, Lord, the people of Israel asked for meat, and you gave it to them out their nostrils, so you better be careful what you ask for. So my hope was really just to be able to have a conversation with other pastors in the community and other Christians where we can actually learn how to theologically and culturally dialogue and do it in love.
Yeah, it's good.
Wow, yeah.
The cancel culture, is showing a generation and a society of what you can't do, and that you can't enter into a conversation even if you disagree, and do it civilly. And if we can do this and do it in a way that is honoring, that's what I want to see. I've had conversations with some of you. We've disagreed on certain things that aren't about salvation, but they are on other aspects. And I think if people can see, the Christian communities, others that can see us do that honorably, I think that's going to be a benefit. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
If you go on Twitter and you look at any of the tweets, anybody that says anything controversial, people immediately polarize, and it's kind of scary because it goes from 0 to 120 just like that, and people use the F word, and it's just crazy. We have lost the ability, like you said, to just to dialogue or to try to understand. And when I heard we were going to do this, I thought I'd like to do that. Yeah. Because I think that it's not even so much that we can point out the areas of disagreement, but just the fact that you can disagree and not hate the other person or shut them up or shut them down. And as Christians, boy, we should be free to think and free to express and free to be able to disagree
That's right.
and not hate each other.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll just echo that. I think I'm tired of people talking past each other on social media. They don't talk to each other. They talk past each other. And I think these kind of forums can only help change the tone in our community, and maybe spark some conversations, at different levels where people can disagree agreeably.
Wow, that's better said than I could have said it. I want to add a cap piece on that. I believe there's something that is happening as a basis to start in this community where we can do this. There was a conversation that was happening at a pastor's gathering, and I remember Steve Schenewerk looking over and saying to another pastor in the room, saying, if my denomination could tell me what to do, they would say I shouldn't be here with you. And that was, to me, the final push. That was February. That was last February, when that just recently. And I distinctly remember that. And that was, for me, the final impetus is we have to be able to have this conversation where we can speak the full truth in love. And so we're going to be throwing out difficult questions. And I think the basis that you've all outlined is pretty solid. I have a whole list of questions that we can throw out, but we did send some out ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and just read off the first one that we had on that list. And what questions are you and your church leadership asking in regard to COVID-19 restrictions on gathering? What kind of things are you hearing? What is going on in that world? That's a hot topic right now.
Yeah, it's probably one of the hottest, because there's so much information, misinformation, opinions, and for us, we want to honor, and as we come back into the building, we've been back, I think this is 4 weeks now. We had a discussion, should we go earlier? I think we went in the last week of June, we came back in, and we wanted to come back earlier. Some debated to come back later. But we wanted to come back into the building and honor those who were grappling with the fear. Not to enter into the conversation of is this thing as bad as it is, or is it blown out of proportion? We want to honor people where they were at, but hopefully get them to a place that fear was diminishing. You know what I mean? So just recently, past week or so now, we're mandated to have everyone wear a mask wherever they go in any public building, including a church. And so we want to honor that as well, but give freedom. And what we've done is give freedom, and we made this announcement every time we've opened now, is beginning a service, we want people to honor one another. If you don't want to wear a mask, we're not going to force you to wear a mask. Those that are wearing a mask, we want to honor you in that same respect. But so we have them come in. They can sit where they want. People that want to distance, let them distance. But honor and love really is the template that we want to bring forward as we figure out together, as we walk together, because the information is unfolding hourly, daily, and on what is important, and they backtrack, and the masks were effective, they weren't, and now they are, and so anyway, honor and respect and love is what we want to do. And so for us, it's navigating that, I guess, in a middle ground way, without talking down to people and without no shame. If you're wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, but honor people where they're at, and hopefully as leadership, we can get to a point where fear, they're not directed by fear, because if you're watching the news, that's what's being pumped out at you.
So let me jump in here. Pretty much the same thing that I think we want to honor the governor's standards, wear a mask, and socially distance and all that sort of thing. But I think the question that we're troubled about, and we probably have 25% of our attendance at this point, and we have a lot of people online. We have people who just don't want to come, can't come. You know, they're vulnerable, part of that vulnerable population. And whether it's real or not, whether they'll be exposed or not, that's not really the question that we're struggling with. What we're struggling with is that we are unconsciously, maybe intentionally, forming certain habits that eventually will have to be undone. And I don't think that it's healthy. I think it's good that we can go online. I think it's good to see it, see or participate, not in person. I get it. If it's not participating versus participating online, I'll take online. But that's no substitute for actual physical presence and the church gathering. What we're doing, though, the longer this goes, is forming habits that I think we're going to have to undo or fight against, and that's really troubling to us. We have to figure out what are we going to do with this.
Yeah.
Is it true? Oh, yes, and I see Dave there.
Yeah, so I mean, I would just ping on that with what Steve just said. I think that it's not just habits in the church as well. I mean, it's, people are, we've been wrestling through things about what Scripture teaches on submission to government, and as well as the different realms of government that God has put in place, where there's individual government, there's family government, there's civil government, there's church government. And then asking big questions like, where are those national lines? Where is it that the government should speak into that? Where does that stop? Who is the government in the United States? Is it the Constitution, or is it the elected officials? These are big questions that we're trying to wrestle through and we're trying to walk through. And so what happens is you not only have the church attendance piece of, people getting comfortable having pajama church. You also have people just acquiescing to government, just allowing certain things to be taken. And you have to begin to ask, where does this begin to stop and hinder the work of the gospel moving forward?
Yep.
So an example like Russ, I love the way you put that, Russ, was that you said when you come into the building, we're allowing people freedom to be able to make that decision if they're going to wear a mask or not. And we've taken the same stance. It's mandated by the governor. That was the one place where we begin to say, we're going to have a subtle resistance here to this, just because we think this is infringing upon an individual government that God has given a person to make a choice on this particular issue. Now, granted, you could take that to its nth degree, but we begin to ask, okay, now we're stopping people from actually coming in our building. This is a church issue. This is a Christ issue. And can the government speak to who comes into the church building? Well, even according to our own Constitution, the answer would be no. And so those are things that we begin to wrestle with as well. Those again, when I got the list of questions, I thought, what questions are coming up? My word, what could be this is a Pandora's box.
We're going there.
And so that's some of the things that we've been wrestling through as well. And I think you're right. I think the habits being formed, and also the laissez-faire to whatever the government says, we just do.
Right.
And the question is, where does that eventually lead us? Mm-hmm. So
I think, excuse me. I think we're seeing a major shift in every area. Some of the questions we're asking are, so the way we were doing church wasn't that effective, in terms of the community we serve. So how can we do better? How can we serve people better? But I really think, and I was reading an article, I think yesterday or the day before, about the French Revolution in the 1780s. There's a lot of similarities in what's going on here and the revolution in France, or in the early 20th century, the revolution in Russia, where the civil unrest was not just, it was about, where's the line of government? They went from a Tsarist, a divine right of kings kind of rule to a completely different kind than we've experienced. But I think we're maybe in the birth pangs of a new era of just how we live completely differently than we have in the past. And I'm trying to lead our church to ask those questions. I don't like not getting together, but I serve an older congregation. They're kind of accustomed to not getting together because of surgeries, illnesses, physical limitations. So how do we maximize the opportunities that we do have? How do we connect with people? And I think all these are legitimate questions, and I think every church is going to answer them differently, and I think that's okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. We would really appreciate to hear your comments or any kind of questions you might have. Please, whatever format you're looking at this in, take a look for where you can leave us a comment. We would love your feedback. Be on the lookout for the next part. It should be attached right here. And thank you so much. May God richly bless your day.